Hello, hello. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I pray that you all are having a wonderful and blessed Wednesday afternoon. I am excited to be back with you for another episode recap of the series Overcoming Loneliness. I'm alone, but not lonely, on the Confessions of a Christian Single Woman podcast. So, again, for those who don't know who I am, my name is Lamika McGee, and I am the creator of the Confessions of a Christian Single Woman podcast, where you will be empowered to propel in all aspects of your purpose, and no sister is left behind. And so, I'm excited that you all can join me today, and I hope that you get something out of what I'm getting ready to share. All right. So, without further ado, let me get my notes back up. So, we are in episode 3 now of season 4, where we have been talking about overcoming loneliness. This entire season, that's what we're going to talk about. And so, in this particular episode that aired this past Monday. So if you have not had a chance to listen to it, like I always say, go run back and catch it. Then you can come back and catch the recap and see what the hype is all about. All right. So this time we talked about the causes of loneliness. Okay. So the last couple of episodes, we talked about the different types. This episode, we talked about the different causes of loneliness, because even though, we are alone, I'm going to always say we should not be lonely, and we also should not stay in a place of loneliness. So it is normal to feel lonely at times, but it's not normal to just stay in a perpetual and chronic state of loneliness. At that point, something really needs to be done so that you can come out of that and live a healthy and fruitful life, the life that God called you to live. And so, there are many different factors that can cause loneliness. Of course, we know you can be lonely inside of a marriage. You can be lonely inside of a friends group. You can feel lonely at your job. So it's more than just being lonely as a single person and wanting that companionship. There are other ways in which loneliness can take effect in your life. And so you just want to make sure that you know and understand what those causes of loneliness are, and then learning how to overcome them, right? And so I'm just going to dive right in, because like I normally say, this is a little bit of your lunch break, and then I'm going to give you your time back. All right. So the number one cause of loneliness, well, first we did talk about the definition of lonely. So go ahead and catch the previous recaps for that definition. So the first cause of loneliness is unmet emotional needs. Unmet emotional needs, and this refers to the lack of or inadequacy of emotional support, validation, and understanding in relationships. And so if you feel like, kind of like I just said, right, if you feel like your needs are not being met in your family situations, or in your relationship situations, or on your job, then you can feel like you are feeling those intense feelings of loneliness because those emotional needs of yours are not met. And so we can see a biblical example of this with the woman at the well in John chapter 4, verse 17 to 18a. And it says, the woman answered and said to him, I have no husband. And Jesus said to her, you have correctly said, I have no husband, for you have had 5 husbands, and the one whom you now have is not your husband. Okay. And so even though the Bible doesn't specifically say it, right, we can read between the lines and see that this woman has some emotional battles going on and some emotional needs going on that were not being met. And so as a result, she was jumping from one relationship to the next, to the next, to the next, to the point that now she encounters Jesus, and Jesus is able to read her whole life and her whole business, right? Tell her all about herself and say, hey, And the man that you are with now isn't even your husband, but yes, you have had 5 husbands. And so, because of this unmet emotional need, it caused her to look to and fro to try to figure out where she could get those needs met. And then she met Jesus, who was able to meet those needs and more, right? And so, we want to make sure that we know and that we can articulate what our emotional needs are, because people aren't going to know just by osmosis. Like, just because you think it doesn't mean that that's what is going to reflect to them, or that that's what they understand you to be and how you are. So you have to make sure that, number one, you know what your emotional needs are, and then number two, you know how to communicate them. Okay. So then number two, we talked about technology. All right. Technology can be a cause of loneliness. I thought this was interesting when I saw it, and I wanted to highlight it, right? Because we are in the technology age, and everything that we do, people cannot live, breathe, and move without technology now. Like, when was the last time you opened up a website to print off a map to be able to get from point A to point B, right? We don't do that anymore because technology has beefed itself up. It has become advanced, right? That's what we call it now, advanced technology. Now we have AI that can help us do anything, okay? Which we never had that before. But technology use can facilitate social connections. But if you use social media too much, or rely a lot on digital media to communicate, then this may contribute to feelings of loneliness. All right. Who knew that being on technology too much could make you feel lonely? And I know, like, one of the ways that it could do that is, especially for those of us who are single and would like to be in a relationship or be married, being on social media during certain times of the year can spur loneliness and can bring it on. For example, the holidays, right? So Thanksgiving, especially Christmas time, when all the couples and the kids are in their matching PJs and taking their Christmas pictures, and, or, the families are taking their fall pictures in November, and everybody's matching in their browns and their creams, and, they're looking cute. And you're like, man, I wish that was me. I wish I had that. And so feelings of loneliness can be brought upon during the holidays. When else? Valentine's Day, right? If you are not with anyone by the time Valentine's Day rolls around, then you can feel strong feelings of loneliness, because all you see online is love this and love that, and this is my boo, and here's all the flowers and the engagements, and everything else that happens during Valentine's Day. So that's how, or those are some examples of how technology use can bring about loneliness in your life, right? So we can actually see a biblical example of this. Y'all, I was shocked, because I was like, even though they didn't have, the advanced technology that we have now, they did have a type of technology in the Bible. Okay, so let's see what it is. So the biblical example of this is Apostle John, and we can see this in 2 John verse 12. And it says, "Though I have much to write to you, I would rather not use paper and ink. Instead, I hope to come to you and talk face to face, so that our joy may be complete." All right, so that our joy may be complete. And so we can see here where Apostle John is writing to an elder in one of the churches that, he communicated with all the time. And he says here, now, of course, back in the Bible days, their method of communication was writing letters and somebody taking that letter and, taking that letter physically to the person that it needs to go to, right? They didn't have the mail carrier system that we have today. So it was like physical movement of letters. And so Apostle John here is saying, I would rather not write you a letter, because it would have to travel to you. I would rather come and talk to you face to face, so that we can experience the joy of being with one another in person, right? And so this is how we can see an example of how technology can become a barrier instead of becoming that good thing that could enhance. Now, I'm not saying technology is bad, because obviously you wouldn't be seeing me today like this if technology was bad, right? So technology is a good thing, but when it's used so much and it's used as an excuse to replace that good face-to-face interaction, even if you're an internal person, right? So if you are a person that is naturally internal and you're like, okay, I like to be around people, but then I have to withdraw to kind of recharge my batteries before going back out. That's me, right? I'm an internal person. I love being out, but when I'm out, it wears me out. So then I have to turn around and come back home and relax for a while and all that and prep my mind to go back out again, right? So for those of us who are more internal by nature, it's easy to hide behind and stay behind technology and be like, I'll just scroll. I'll just take my phone and I'll just scroll and I'll be good. But the Bible here is even giving us an example where they're saying, no, it's good to actually get out and be in person and be around other people and surround yourself with others so that your joy may be complete. Your joy may be full. It brings you joy to hang around with other people, to minister with other people, to love on other people, to nurture other people, versus always being by yourself internal and then allowing those feelings of being lonely because you're by yourself to overtake you when you could just get out for a little bit, right? So that's a good one right there, is technology use. Okay. And then the last one that we talked about is cultural and societal factors. Cultural and societal factors. This can influence social norms, community structures, and interpersonal relationships in ways that either help contain or fuel the fire of feelings of loneliness. All right. So you can end up being lonely as a result of the influence around you. Okay. So sometimes this may not even be loneliness that stems from you, but it's the loneliness that stems from the environment around you. Okay. So let's see a biblical example of this. We can see this in Hannah. All right. So 1 Samuel chapter 1, verse 6-7 says, her rival, moreover, would provoke her bitterly to irritate her because the Lord had closed her womb. And it happened year after year, as often as she went up to the house of the Lord, that she would provoke her. So she wept and would not eat. So this is telling the story of Elkanah, right? Elkanah had two wives, Peninnah and Hannah. And so Peninnah was able to bear Elkanah children, but Hannah had not, because it says that the Lord closed her womb. So she was barren. She could not produce children. As a result of that, Peninnah would bully her, would make fun of her, would tease her, and would provoke her, and would irritate her and be in her face all day, every day, about the fact that she could do something that Hannah could not. So as a result of this norm, this societal norm, the society that she was in, and the interpersonal relationships, because remember, I just said that it can influence social norms, community structures, and interpersonal relationships that can fuel the fire and feelings of loneliness. Okay. So, in this interpersonal relationship that she has with Peninnah and with Elkanah, she is now feeling these feelings of intense sadness and loneliness and, disappointment and probably even angry at the fact that she is in this predicament in the first place, right? And so how does that apply to us today? We can also experience like residual feelings and effects of loneliness due to interpersonal relationships and things like that. So for instance, I'll say me, and I think I've talked about this before on an episode before. But my parents are pastors. They are, true ministers of the gospel. Their entire circle of friends are basically pastors, ministers of the gospel, and they're all married, and they've all been married for long periods of time, right? And my brother is also a minister. My younger brother is also a minister, and he has been married for a long period of time. I'm the only one that has not been married, right? Has never been married, okay? Has never been married, no children, right? So when special events happen, that my parents open up to, the public, and all of their friends come, and my brother and his family come, I'm personally surrounded by nothing but married people for like 4 days. And when I say surrounded by married people, I mean surrounded. Like, they're staying in my parents' house. We're all going out to do events. We're all going out to eat. My mom is a big proponent of not letting me sit nothing out, because I just be like, well, the couples can just go have at it. And she's like, no, you're coming with us. Let's go. So because of that, I have to be around nothing but married couples. So my interpersonal and societal factors for however many days, that's what I'm inundated by. Well, how many of you know, these are my confessions, I have felt lonely in those situations, very lonely. And it has gotten to the point where I'm just like, well, dag, let me go retreat, and I'm gonna let y'all do y'all, because I'm just the only single one sitting here. Like, what am I here for? But I had to learn how to come out of that and recognize the opportunity for what it is. What is the opportunity? I have the luxury and the blessing to be around married couples who have been married for over 20 years, actually for over 25 years at this point, right? And so now, instead of being like, Dad, well, I'm the only single one out of all these married couples, what do I do now when we all get together and we're just sitting in the kitchen? I'm asking questions. And I'm like, hey, when it comes to marriage, how did y'all handle this? What did you do in this? Hey, what do you think I should look for in a spouse? What do you think is the problem going on today? How do you tackle this in your messages? How do you preach to single people in regards to these areas? Like, now I take that as an opportunity to glean from them, rather than isolate myself from them and wallow in feelings of, dang, I'm the only single person out of this whole event, in this whole house. I'm the only single person here. No, now I flip that. And now I ask questions. And then it's always fun too, because my best friend will come with me and she asks all the good questions. And so we'll sit there and we'll just talk to them for hours and have amazing conversation about life. So instead of wallowing, I now turn it and make it a superpower to learn, so that when it's my turn, I don't have to bump my head with the same problems that they did. I now know how to govern myself accordingly as a woman of God, right? And as a woman who's going to be marrying a man of God. So don't let the societal norms and the interpersonal relationships make you feel lonely. How can you come out of that? How can you turn that situation around for your good, so that it does not pull you down into a state of now in depression that you're trying to come out of, and you're having to, do things to try to get out of that, versus being like, you know what can I learn from this? How can I flip this situation around? And how can I see the good in this instead of the bad? Okay. So that is what we talked about. Just a brief recap of what we talked about. I did list some other ways to overcome this, the causes of loneliness. So if you have not had a chance to listen to the episode, please go back and listen to the episode. It came out on Monday. And so you'll be able to hear and listen to the ways to overcome. So the ways that I mentioned today actually were not in the episode. So you got some good nuggets there. All right. But the official ways that I said to overcome are in the episode. So make sure to listen to that. New episodes come out on the podcast every Monday at 8 a.m. on your favorite streaming platforms. Definitely make sure to follow me on IG and on Facebook, and now also on YouTube. All the episodes are now up on YouTube. So if you're an avid YouTuber, then you can go ahead and follow the Confessions of a Christian Single Woman page on YouTube. Make sure to like the bell or press the bell so that you can receive all of the notifications. All right. And then every Wednesday at noon Eastern, I will be on, like today, to do an episode recap. So make sure you come back next week to hear again what we talked about. And so I pray that you all have a blessed and wonderful rest of your day, and that you enjoy the rest of your lunch break. And I will see you next week.